To get more on this unfolding situation, I'm joined now by Maryland State Delegate Robin Lewis and Maryland State Senator Antonio Hayes. Hello to both of you. Thank you so much for making the time for us during what I can only imagine is a really difficult time. Delegate Lewis, I'll start with you. How is the community doing right now? I imagine as the search continues, there's still a lot of anxiety.
There is. Thank you so much for following this incredibly heartbreaking story. I represent the district in which at least one of the missing workmen lives in the neighborhood of Highlandtown in my district, District 46 in Maryland. I want to commend everyone who's responding, all our first responders. I'm aware right now that the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs is on the ground, reaching out to affected families of at least a few of these missing workmen, and our hearts are going out. We are doing all we can, and so grateful for the partnership of President Biden, Governor Wes Moore, and all of our colleagues. So thank you.
Senator Hayes, can you help Canadians watching tonight sort of situate us and this bridge and the significance of this piece of infrastructure to the city and really the state more largely?
No, absolutely. So, and thank you so much for having us. I echo the sentiments that my colleague delegate has expressed. And, you know, our hearts and prayers go out to the families that are affected and all those that are involved, including, you know, our first responders. The bridge that we're referring to is the Francis Key Scott Bridge. We often refer to it as just the Key Bridge in Baltimore. It actually extends from Baltimore City into Baltimore County. It's part of I-695, and it's a well-traveled infrastructure here in Baltimore. It's iconic in that it's probably one of the only, you know, suspension bridges here in the region. I understand from listening to news reports, it's probably one of the largest in the nation. But often, you know, it connects two communities across the body of water extending from Baltimore City into the Dundalk area, right in the surrounding county, is where the Key Bridge is situated here in the city.
Delegate Lewis, we heard various officials in the morning say that there didn't appear to be any credible evidence this was something other than an accident or that there was any terrorism involved. I imagine that you've been briefed throughout the day on what investigators have been able to surmise about the cause. What can you share with us about what you know?
Well, I probably know what you know. According to President Biden in the most recent updates we've received, there's no evidence of any untoward activity. This does, in fact, seem to have been an accident. The ship in question lost electric power and, thank goodness, sent out a Mayday call before the crash, which allowed first responders to get the message out to close down the bridge. Had that not happened, the casualties and harm would have been much worse. We're waiting for word on, I believe it's 6 missing workmen. And as my good colleague, Senator Hayes mentioned, this bridge, it's not just something that connects two important communities. It sits on the Patapsco River, which feeds into the Chesapeake Bay, which I'm sure your viewers in Canada are aware of. It's the biggest estuary on the planet. And the route of the bridge follows one of the most important north-south routes for moving people and goods on the entire North American continent. So the impact of this accident, it's going to be felt not just in Baltimore City and Baltimore County, our neighboring jurisdiction. It's going to be felt all along the East Coast and across our continent. We are just heartbroken, devastated. The idea of something like this happening, unconscionable, but we are prepared and standing firm and together, working to respond and just fix what we can as quickly as we can. Very grateful to President Biden for his commitment to rebuild this bridge. Thank you.
And he has said that he said earlier today that it would be all federal money that would reconstruct the bridge. Senator Hayes, could you speak to the significance of that artery, the amounts of, as your colleague referenced, goods and people that go through it just on a daily basis? This will have a pretty long-term impact, I would guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Port of Baltimore itself is a tremendous resource, not just to Baltimore, not just to the state of Maryland, but throughout the world. It is my understanding that the port exports 25% of the world's coal. And so having this bridge, which, has essentially shut down the Port of Baltimore from operations, is pretty significant. The port annually do about 52.3 million tons in foreign cargo, about $80.8 billion in foreign cargo value, and then another 11.7 million tons of general cargo, and all up and down the East Coast, all around the world. I believe, from some of the reports that we heard earlier, this particular ship was en route to Singapore, I believe, and so it's devastating to the community. But I will tell you, Baltimoreans and Maryland are resilient people. Even tonight, our faith community has come together in a really strong way of all denominations and rallying in a prayer vigil for all of those that have been affected by this very tragic event.
I'll leave it at that. I appreciate both of you making the time for the conversation. Thank you so much to Senator Hayes and Delegate Lewis. Our thoughts are certainly with you and everyone in your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.